there. My name is Erik from Building My Freedom Business podcast. Welcome to episode 5. And today's guest is Jillian Benbow. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then I just apologize for the different quality of view. I just discovered as I arrived at my holiday place that there is no internet here, so I have to find a spot outside the restaurant. But hey, that happens in podcasting, stuff that you need to calculate in, which I didn't. But that doesn't take away that today's guest, Jillian Benbow, who is the senior community manager from the SPI PRO community. Smart Passive Income, Pat Flynn and his crew who run the SPI PRO. I'm a member myself, and we take a deep dive into her role there, but also we take a deep dive into her background. Has she always been working for other people? Has she had her own business? And you will discover that in this episode of the Building My Freedom Business podcast.
All right, I want to welcome my next guest, Jillian Benbow. And Jillian Benbow is, and she's going to give me the complete title, but the way I'm going to pronounce it, by the way, it's not just Jillian Benbow, it is Jillian Benbow and her dog, which you might hear in the background.
Yes,
but
just
Jillian
on cue.
Benbow has, in my opinion, one of the interesting roles of to being the community manager, and it's got a bigger name which she's going to share with you in a moment, but of the SPI PRO, the Smart Passive Income PRO community, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of members in it. I'm a member myself, and it's really interesting to talk to her because normally I'm interviewing entrepreneurs, but here is someone who is engaging with entrepreneurs and really learning about the journey and figuring out ways to engage with them and support them in many different ways. So Jillian, I want to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. But before we kick off, I'm talking about, share me the real title of your role, but also what I would love to know, if you could share to me and the listeners a tiny bit about your background, because here you are working with entrepreneurs. Have you always somehow been involved in entrepreneurs? Do you come from an entrepreneurial family? Share a little bit of your background, how you got to where you are now, but please start with that complete title of your
It's a mouthful. Well, thank you. And my family just walked in the door, so apologies. It's just like it's like a magnet to noise. It's like schedule a podcast and everything happens. So my name is Jillian Benbow. I am the senior community experience manager at SPI Media, which is just a fancy term for I'm a community manager, and I've been doing that for a very long time. So I get the senior in front of my name. And I've been working in community, digital community for over 10 years now. So quite a while, just been part of the Wild West and entrepreneurial at heart, I would say. But
I see you running in the background. It's beautiful.
Do you? Yeah. It's just chaos here. Welcome to my world. But yeah, so I would say I've always been entrepreneurial at heart. I have had a go at running my own business before, and then decided to actually get into community and do something that had like more stable paycheck. And now here I am full circle supporting entrepreneurs and really empathizing with the struggle of launching, because I've been there. And I think, someday maybe I'll put my hat in the ring again. But for right now, I'm happy just helping other entrepreneurs connect with each other.
I'm glad you shared this, that you've been an entrepreneur yourself. You made a go at it. But what I would love to know, Jillian, is that, let me think. When people become an entrepreneur, people run their own businesses because they love the feeling of being free or being in control, not having to stick to a structure, with a job comes so many weeks holiday and all that sort of stuff. So how has it been for you to move from, I assume that you started your own business because there was a part of you that wanted to be in control over your own destiny. And so how was it to shift into, being in a job within an amazing team, I have to say. That in itself must be an incredible experience. However, but how was it for you to shift back? Because you mentioned an interesting thing, that steady paycheck. Of course, that is definitely something that is, But Any regrets? Do you miss it? Are you happy where you are now? I mean, of course you are happy where you are now, but is the part of you missing the entrepreneurial side of life?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, so I say the steady paycheck, which is certainly a perk, but of course there's pros and cons of everything, right? So like when I first started the business I had launched, which was it was fitness for new moms. So it was for
Yeah.
women who'd had a baby and were trying to get back to just feeling healthy. And, whether it's, I don't want to say it's about losing weight. It was more just about, your body goes through everything when you have a baby. And so just kind of like getting your health back. So, uh, and I was a mom of a very young child when I was doing this. That was part of what inspired me because I got really into trail running because I live in mountains and I love to be outdoors. And so I was like, hey, I can make this work for me and have a small child and not have to go, pay for them to be in daycare and go to an office. And where I live is very expensive because it's a resort community, so the jobs are very limited, and the things that are available are traditionally like poor pay and seasonal in nature, and just a lot of work if you don't like working face to face with people on vacation, which I do not. It can get old. So, I live in paradise at a cost. So the idea of having something that was totally mine. Also, just the idea of like, hey, you can grow this and make it whatever you want, and you get to make all the decisions. Like that was all very appealing, and it still is in many ways. I also had to learn, it's a lot of work. If anything, I think I worked more, doing that. Like, granted, and this was before remote work was like really a thing. I mean, even the pandemic has accelerated remote work, but even before the pandemic, like it wasn't that common. It was growing, and certainly in the tech industry and various industries it was, but so I just didn't have a lot of options, and that seemed like a great option. And then ultimately I actually started working in community part-time, which when I first did it, I told myself, oh, the money I make from this, I'll invest into my business. And then as I was doing it, and it was for it was it was like a late phase tech startup. So it's already pretty big. They had, a couple rounds of funding, but still kind of the gritty startup mentality. I was just learning so much. And it was just an opportunity. I had the opportunity to then go full time, and then I had the opportunity to be in leadership. And I ultimately decided to focus on that because the learning experience of it was so valuable to me. And I'm so glad I did, because then fast forward 10 years, working at SPI Media now, which is a small team. We are not a startup, although I would say we operate like one in the sense that we're just kind of gritty and, we pivot quickly, and we have that ability because we're in control of our company. But it's like the knowledge gained in that decade of working in big communities is priceless. And I'm really glad I did it. I also think now, if I were to, start my own thing again, I just have so much more life education in it. I think it'd still be hard. I think it's always hard, as much as like things like that are, but I think it's just what worked for me at the time. And now I'm, I have an expertise in something that's still pretty new, which is also
absolutely
great.
So the role that you got with SPI Pro, did you knew of Pat Flynn before this job?
Oh,
were you
that's
aware
a good
of
question.
were you aware of his world, or did you sort of roll into something? You thought, oh, okay, I'm getting to know who this guy is. Blah blah. I mean, how did that work, and also how did that job appear in front of you, and how did that process went?
Oh, this is a juicy question. So, go back to those 10 years plus ago when I was doing my own thing. I was actually getting really jaded about a lot of the people online that, are like quote unquote influencers or lifestyle entrepreneurs, because I would, there was not a lot of transparency in the fact that a lot of people were just at the right time at the right place. And then they're trying to sell courses at a premium price, because they've made a name for themselves. And their courses are terrible because they just kind of lucked out, and so they don't actually have the expertise. There's a lot of fake it till you make it in online courses and whatnot. And that's, it is what it is. And that's a whole other conversation, maybe like over a beer, but the exception for sure. And it's not everybody, but I was just kind of getting disheartened because I felt like, well, the only way you can actually make money online is to sell courses about how to make money online, versus having something completely separate. Because it just seemed like that was all the people who were doing well were just telling other people how they did it. Anyways, so I was getting kind of jaded. This was when that part-time role was, I had the opportunity to, kind of grow into, and I found Pat Flynn right about then. So it was like kind of right when I was taking a step out of the door and unsubscribing from a lot of business podcasts and whatnot, and just like taking a reset. But I remember finding him, and at the time, if anyone listening is familiar with him way back when, 10 plus years ago, he had an income report on his website. And every month you could see exactly how much money he was making through sales or affiliate sales, like everything. Like he was so transparent. And I was like, this guy is legit. Maybe someday I'll like look into it. But then I went off on my own, path and wasn't really paying attention to that stuff. I honestly needed to take a clean break from a lot of like the online business stuff, because I was just jaded. And I had something else to focus on and a small child. So I was busy. It wasn't, it just kind of happened. So I was in a role a couple, like pre-pandemic, that we lost our funding at the company. And so there were a lot of layoffs and just a lot of stuff happening. It was time to exit. And so I'd been doing consulting work, and which was great. But then the pandemic hit, and, consulting dries up real quick in something like that, as it should. But so I was looking, there's a few, so for community, it's such a niche thing, and digital community, there's a few resources for community professionals for employment. One is CMX and CMX Hub. And I saw a job for something called SPI Media on there, and I was like, well, what the heck is that? And I clicked in and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Pat Flynn. This is Smart Passive Income. That's hilarious. And at first I was like, I'm not applying to that. And then about a week later, I was like, you know what? He was the one that I always thought was like very authentic. And I was like, well, I'm going to apply. And like long story long, after meeting Matt and other people on the team, it was very clear that this was an actual like business. Originally it was just Pat, and then it was Pat and Jess for a long time, but now, he's grown it into something. And a lot of it is obviously his success as an entrepreneur allowed for that. And as going back to, I had this entrepreneurial spirit. I was like, I can learn so much here. So it was just kind of, I was very grateful that I was the one chosen for the role. And it's just been a wonderful adventure.
Yeah. How long have you been with the team now?
So I started last September. So not even a year.
Last September. So you started right in the midst of the COVID situation.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Well, I guess for us, we'd been in it like the spring prior was like the worst of it. And then it just kind of held steady.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you ended this role, and what I'm curious about, you've been there since for close to a year, a few months away from it. Can you maybe tell me some of the challenges that you personally have experienced, getting into that role, trying to understand what your role was within that company, trying to find your place, and also what I'm curious about, were you given some freedom to sort of explore and try things out? I mean, can you tell me about those challenges and, about the position of freedom to choose and try out things?
Yeah. So, I mean, the great thing about SPI Media, Pat's company, is it is very entrepreneurial. Like everyone either currently has their own little side hustle, or they were a company that, like Matt Gartland, the co-CEO, he was the CEO of his own company that merged with Pat's company, hence SPI Media. So and then, the bulk of what we do is educate people looking to be entrepreneurs or to have some sort, their own mark on the world through courses or ebooks or, whatever it is. So I feel like the company runs a lot like that. Like I have a lot of freedom. It's kind of like, hey, we come up with goals and, things we're shooting for. But ultimately, if I want to launch a program in Pro tomorrow, I just do it. I can certainly ask for feedback, but it's a very own your outcome is one of our key kind of philosophies. It's part of our mission is own your outcome. So in many ways I can do what I want. Like I really want to offer t-shirts to merch. I actually just posted in the community if you saw it. You saw it. Yay. Yeah. So that's just something I've really wanted to do. And so it's like, hey, if you want to take the time to figure it out and get all the stuff going, I'm supported where I need support, but otherwise it's like, sure, go for it. Like you really just own what you want to do.
And what is really interesting about that, you're still using your entrepreneurial skills. I mean, it sounds like being an entrepreneur within a company almost,
Yeah, it feels like that. And actually, I think that's just how my brain operates. And so I'm very well suited for this company because it's how the company operates. I'm sure I annoyed past coworkers at other roles, especially the bigger, late stage startups where you don't have as much is it anonymity, like the ability to just kind of do stuff and they're like, cool, do it. Like there were a lot more hoops to jump through. And so if you had an idea, it had to go to this department and then get approval from this group and, all these stakeholders higher up. But we're small enough of a company that, I mean, I really feel like I work for an entrepreneur, right? Or a group really. So it's kind of this fun spot where, you get the things that, especially in the States where, healthcare and things like that aren't done great, I'll just say. So, you have the reliable benefits and the retirement and all of that. But you're also getting to work in that kind of freedom mindset where, if I was like, let's do and just come up with this crazy idea, as long as I can back it up with the, some thoughtfulness, it's like, go for it,
Yeah. So I want to dive a bit deeper in a moment into what it is within SPI Pro that you do that really helps and supports the entrepreneurs in there. But before that, you started last year and we're now in July 2021. If you look back over the last sort of 9-10 months, what has there been like a real big takeaway or one thing that you specifically say, man, I'm really made a shift in this or this really jumped out for me? I mean, has there been any of those moments?
In what sense? Like just,
well, in your development yourself as a person within the company, has there been a moment whereby you sort of experience, when you look back and you say, I've really grown in this part? I mean, I think that's possibly the part that I want to jump in. I mean, you've been there for 9-10 months, and have you felt that you've grown in a specific part within your role that you have within SPI Pro?
That's a really interesting question. And I'm not sure.
No, that's fine.
I mean, community management and just working in digital community in general, the skill set is such that you can kind of take it anywhere. And I mean, a lot of it is trial and error, but there's kind of a basic foundation that will, formula, if you will, that can work in many, many different situations. I will say, I think the thing that's really different here and is new to me is that SPI Pro is a paid community, and it's, I don't want to say it's exclusive because I'd like to think we're very inclusive, but you apply to get in, you have to quote unquote pass, or be approved. We look at what you say when you apply and determine if you're a fit. So there's some gates that people have to get through to get in. And then of course they're paying to be a part of it, because it's very much like a kind of an advanced network, if you will, of like-minded entrepreneurs. And we keep it intentionally smaller than we'd have to, because we want to preserve the sense of intimacy and safety for people. We don't want it to feel just like a sea of anonymous faces. We want people to really connect. And I think that piece of it, coming from tech startups that have, when you take money as a startup, you give a piece of your soul of your company, and at the cost of because the expectation for that money is growth. And so running a community where growth is not a huge priority, that quality is a huge priority, has been, a delight. So it's different for sure. And getting to lean into that and really focus on curating relationships between people instead of focusing on growth metrics is just amazing. And I think it's a professional community, and the last few communities I've been involved with have been free and have been more anonymous, so things like fighting trolls, that kind of stuff, multiple accounts, just like the dark side of community was much more a big part of it, like trust and safety practices. And so in pro, not having to do that. It's always in the back of my mind. And sometimes I think I freak out my colleagues, because I'll be like, well, we need to have a policy on this. And they're like, on what? And I'm like, yeah, you should check to make sure that people can't harass you online. You really need to check these things. And they're just like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been harassed. And, so I think just being in a more like a literally professional community is just, that's a shift for me, and it's great. But it's also, I think where the challenge, this is a very long answer, but the challenge of that is, these are paying customers, for lack of a better word. So I need to make sure I'm delivering. So if someone gives me feedback, I always am open to feedback, but it might sting a little more, because it's like, this person pays to be here, and if they have a problem, and hopefully I can fix it, but I feel like a higher like onus to do something about it.
Yeah. Talk about delivering. Can you maybe share 2 of the events that you created within SPI Pro that really got things rolling, that really got engagement, that got people on fire? We had a little chat in the little talk beforehand, and I shared one with you that I really thought that I could just see how many people engaged in that. And engagement in a community like that is quite a challenge to keep people engaged. So what are some events that you have organized that you've seen a real good reaction to?
Let's see. Well, so what you're referring to, just so everyone knows, is every month we do something called the Challenge of the Month. And I can't really take credit for that, because that was created before I started. So that was a team SPI. And what it is every month, Pat Flynn, our boss, will do a challenge in the community for the pros. This month, we're calling it the MOP challenge, which it means moment of, is it peace? It's something like that. And it's really just to like reset and take a minute. But normally it's more business based. And last October we did, everything in our company is branded with like smart, the word smart. So if you're familiar with Shark Tank, the show or the competition, we did Smart Tank, and everybody had the opportunity to do basically like a 60-second elevator pitch video. And then we did this big live event and announced the top 5, and then finally the winner. And the winner, Maria, the prize was being on Pat's podcast, which is huge. So it was, a big thing. And that took off. Like, people were just all about it. We're going to do it again, by the way, because Pat always talks about that. Like, we need to do that again, because it was just so much fun. But anyways, I had my hand in the idea behind that, but the whole Challenge of the Month concept was not mine. Something that I have done in pro that I think works really well. As I know, so, and this is just a part of like community management too, is you pay attention to themes and things you keep seeing coming up. And something I saw that was coming up in the community a lot was people asking for help in a way that was like, I need to hire somebody, or I am for hire for this thing, or I need a guest on a podcast, that. So I created a space in Pro on our platform called Help Wanted, and then just put some parameters about how to post in it, because it's a little different than, most of the spaces. It's like post, there's no parameters of how to post other than, no soliciting, right? So in Help Wanted, you say, in the title, either help wanted or help offered, and then whatever it is. So a lot of people will go in there and say, help wanted, I need someone to do my taxes and I'm in this country and yada, yada. And so other pros may have a contact for that, or they may do that. And so it's just a way to help people kind of connect their greater networks with each other to support each other. And so a lot of cool things have come from that. It's a great place for podcasters to get guests or be guests. Like if I had a book and I wanted to promote it, I could say, hey, help offered, I will come on your podcast as a guest. And it helps me too, because I'm promoting my book. So I really enjoy what's become of Help Wanted. I think it's a really useful tool for the community. I'm trying to think of other things that, I started the Friday newsletter, which I don't know if you read it, but every Friday I send kind of a summary newsletter that has the events coming up the next week, anything big that you might have missed. A big thing about Pro, so if I'm sure everyone has gathered, it's a global community. So we just have a lot going on, and depending on your time zone and, and where you are relative, because our hours are US based, you might miss something. And also just between the live events and then the asynchronous, the platform based interactions, there's just a lot going on, and not everyone has time to sit there and see it all. And so I try to just curate some like high level, like, hey, if you're going to do anything this week, here's 3 interesting conversations. And so I think that's really helped people just feel like they're still a part of it, even if they're not having a ton of time to actually log into the platform, and also just see what's coming the weeks ahead. So I'd say that it's not exactly an event, but it's a way to just keep people connected, which is always a challenge in a busy community.
It kind of I'm, we're coming sort of to the end of our time, but what I'm curious about, Jillian, is, can you share some of the ingredients that if someone else is out there, a business owner that wants to start a community, and of course, in the beginning, we're not in the privileged situation that we can just hire someone, and as a business owner, you become the community manager yourself. What are some ingredients that that you would say that a community manager needs to have to make it a successful experience?
Yeah. And I think it's so important to talk about that as a business owner. If you want community to be a part of your business, you don't have to hire a full-time community professional right out the gate. Like, it's just not, we all know it's not feasible. And so, you look at a Pat Flynn who creates this community, and it's like, oh, look at this, and it's so great, but he has a whole team helping with everything from the automations to, like me being there 5 days a week helping people and whatnot. I think if you want to get into community, or if you have community in some sense and you want to grow it, it will take some of your time, and you need to be willing to commit the time to that. But it's also just important to communicate boundaries with your community, to be like, hey, we're doing this, but I am only one person. And so if I don't respond right away, like, it's because I'm having dinner with my family, which is really important to me, or I'm taking a break. And so even just setting that precedent at the beginning, I think will take a lot of pressure off of you as the business owner and the person whose community it is, to feel like you always have to be there, because that is just a recipe for burnout. And burnout, I think we all know, it's like super common in owning your own business, but it's very relevant in community, because, or it's very prevalent in community, and for community professionals. Like, you have to have really good boundaries, because it's so tempting to just check your phone on a Saturday night, and then all of a sudden you're in this big thing, helping someone, and not that they don't deserve the help, but you need your downtime. So I think that, and then I really, one of the best things you can do when it comes to just trying to have an engaged community, one is to ask your community members what they want. What do they want to see? Are you providing what they're looking for? And it doesn't mean you have to change your community based on what they say, but it will help inform you of like why people joined. Why are they there? And then you can start to craft like, well, how do I get them to stay? Because having people join is one thing and having people stay and engage is a whole other thing. And there's always going to be churn. People are always going to leave community. People are going to get busy. It's okay. Focus on the people that are there and showing up and talk to them and say, what is it that you like? What ideas do you have? That goes such a long way with your community members, because it should be a two-way conversation. And then just pay attention to what's popular. So whether you're posting something and people are replying, or, the holy grail, which is your members are posting and replying to each other without you having to nudge the conversation, see what the popular posts are, go look at the history, and then see if you can replicate it in any way, because that will kind of help you. It's a lot of just throwing spaghetti at the wall. You just try stuff. Not that I've ever done that.
I've heard that phrase quite a few times in the last few days in my household, that sometimes it feels that like what we're doing is just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and that is not always the most effective technique. But yeah, it's something that we do. One last brief question without giving away any secrets, but anything exciting that SPI Pro that you're working on that you can share that might be happening within the community? And this is possibly coming out September-ish.
September. Okay. Something I'm super excited about is launching the opportunity and the resources for our members to host in-person events in their areas. Like I said, global community. And so, depending where you are, I'm in the state of Colorado, in the middle of the US, basically up on a mountain. But, there's a handful of pros here. So I cannot wait to host, when it's safe to do so, like an in-person get together with the people who can, it's reasonable for them to travel in October. And this is all, of course, pandemic dependent. So, we'll see, but I can tell you, especially knowing September, our team is having a summit in Denver, the capital of Colorado, for our whole team to get together in person and do some planning for next year, which is it's just crazy to think like 2022, right?
I know.
But alongside that, we are going to host a happy hour for Colorado, or whoever's willing to make the drive to Denver. We're going to do a happy hour for pros. So that is going to kind of be the roadmap for, encouraging pros wherever they are to get together in person and talk shop, kind of like the topic meetups, but face to face. So that's something I'm really excited about. And of course, the shirts that I announced today. It's not really a secret.
I know. Which are not for sale yet, I understand, but they are part of a special, yearly membership deal.
Yeah.
All right, Jillian, thank you so much. I actually understand. I listened to the interview that Pat did with you. Not so long ago. Do you remember which episode number it was?
It was like in the high 400s, I think, because I feel like it's right around 500.
I will look it up and put it in the show notes.
Okay.
And because
I guess that's something I should just know, huh?
I thought maybe you would, one of those highlight moments in your life.
Yeah, totally.
Being on the SPI podcast, but I'll put it in the show notes, and I think it will be interesting, Pat, talking to you about your role within the community.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about SPI Pro, or want to get in touch with you or anything like that, tell me where can they go?
Yeah, well, I would say you should use your referral code to give to people.
All right.
Because we do have one of our goals in Pro is to have it be a place that can actually generate like a significant amount of income for our members, so that it's already, it's about $50 a month roughly to be a member, but if between the affiliate program for courses and the pro referral program, you can make way more than that a month. So I would challenge you to share your link in your show notes so people can, if they want to join, they can, kind of give you a nod for sending them our way. But if you want to learn more in the meantime, but use that special link. You can go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro, and it'll tell you about the program. We're really, we're trying to help kind of the entrepreneurs who you've created something, you have a product or service, and you're ready to go to the next level. So whether that's in podcasting or online courses or writing books, or coaching or consulting, and it's just a great place. We have, experts in so many different fields that just help each other, but it's definitely a give and take. Like, you have to put yourself out there and post and be active, and then the magic kind of happens. You have to be motivated to show up.
I'm glad you mentioned the affiliate program, because part of what, I'm just in this podcast we are recording now in July. The podcast will be launched in August. The website will go live in August. And part of my process is to actually put a resource page on there, and all the things that Pro offers to the members. These resources will be on there. So if people want to know, go to buildingmyfreedombusiness.com and look at the resource page, and you will find all the links and the packages there that are available. Jillian, you've given me more time than I was hoping for, so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Great meeting your dog and all the people that I can see running outside. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Look forward to connecting with you in the community. Take care.
Sounds good.